Welcome to the channel My Python Classes. Friends, today in this video we are going to talk about Python data frames. We'll be talking about some advanced operations on data frames like pivoting, sorting, aggregation and descriptive statistics. Now before I start to the topic, I will definitely talk about what is data. Now data, we know that it is the facts and figures what we collect from our surroundings. Now this is something which started being collected from long back, from the ancient ages, even before prehistoric civilizations. Neanderthals were ruling or were dwelling in this world. They used to put figures, facts on the stone for recording, which we might now cannot relate with what exactly was the utility, but still that gives us knowledge about that time. Now this has evolved from Neanderthals to Homo sapiens, and then the historic civilization what we have seen or what we know. We now know that the data recording is not on the walls of the caves, or it is not something which is very unorganized. It is very organized, and these are being done with sophisticated tools. Now every day we create a huge quantity, that is 2.5 quintillion data in bytes. And there's one more fact which is now very interesting, that is 90% of the world's data today has been created in last 2 years. Now if you see, in coming days data is going to be the most important resource of any activity that a human does, be it business, be it research of any kind. Now what do we find? Data basically takes the shape of numbers. Now numbers in a very big spreadsheet or on a table does not give us a very clear idea. So that data representation is a vital demand of this current world. Now when any analyst reads the data is not read as simple numbers or group of numbers or set of elements which are actually put into or spread into a two-dimensional structure that we know as a database table. It is actually visualized in forms of bar graphs, charts of several types. It can be a line chart, it can be a pie chart, it can be a histogram, it can be a scattered line chart, or of any kind which gives us clear idea about what the data wants to represent. Now with the evolving time, we can see data scientists, or in fact data sciences has become a very vital and very prominent field of study. In fact, this is something which is going to be required for every other study that we do, be it biotechnology, be it agricultural science, be it some economic research, or some straight physics research. So today we will be talking about how Python is going to help us in this whole data science, or in fact data analysis. Now in Python there are pre-built libraries which are going to help us, for making the data represented in a visual way which can be read better than compared to what we read as numbers. Now in order to proceed with this discussion, we require some prerequisites. To run the modules that I'll be showing now, you need to install Pandas, you need to install Numpy, you need to install matplotlib, and you should have very basic knowledge about data management, because that is going to tell us about like how in the real world we store the data. Like when we collect data for any purpose, we put it in a 2D structure, 2D dimension, and we use SQL or directly maybe like some wizard based application software which we call DBMS, and store the data in form of a table from where we can collect it later as a file. So I'll talk about data frames in details, and in my detailed discussion I'll be basically highlighting on the modules which in a way help us to work easily with the set of data that we have. So I'll be showing you two basic functions in the beginning, which is pivot and pivot table. Now what is pivot? For that, let me take you to a data set or a data frame. So now we have come to spreadsheet file. Here you can see I have opened it in MS Excel. You can open it in any platform, like Google Sheet can open it. OpenOffice platform is also there, where you will find calc type of software packages which can open it easily. Now this is just not a simple spreadsheet. I am going to store it in form of a CSV file. Now CSV file is comma separated values formatted file. I'll talk about it little while from now. But before we get into the details of the operations of pandas or the data frames, let us try to understand what this table wants to tell us. This is a table which is telling us the financial state of any business house. Say for example, it can be a factory or it can be any small or big business house which is keeping its records. Here we can see that few accounts we have kept here. 7 accounts are there: furniture account, reserve capital, building, computer, interest on loan, then admission of some partner A, and the machineries. Now the next column here you can see it is account category. Now what is account category? If you have the knowledge of commerce, you'll be knowing that the accounts are categorized into their broad types, broad forms, which actually are operated or are used in certain fashion which is defined by the accountancy terms. So here you can see some fixed assets are there, like furniture is a fixed asset, building is a fixed asset, the computer purchased or being used in the setup is a fixed asset, machinery is a fixed asset. Now reserved capital is a capital, admission of A who has brought in some money into the business, that is also the capital. Now interest on loan, the business body has taken some loan from some bank or somewhere and has to pay interest for that. That is going to become a liability, which is going to be a type of expenditure that the company is going to be making or the factory is going to be making. Now here the balance, you can see the values are given here. The fund flow which has gone through the whole year or whole period of time is marked here. Now this is a straight simple table. It can be like any XYZ table which we use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do certain operations based on this, which we will be seeing how easily we can improvise when we are taking it to the programming structure. But let us now see how to store it. If you see, I have saved this file. I'm saving it again. I just want you to want you to see it. I'm saving it in my E drive as data, and the saving type, save as type, it is going to by default show me Excel workbook, but I'll not keep it like that. I'll make it CSV. Now if I don't make it CSV, then I'll not be able to read it the way I want to read it through Python. Whenever we store any Excel file, the metadata, which actually talks about the data related to the data what we are storing, also gets stored. Like, it is not just the data which we can see here, it is other things also along with it, which the application, which the software has put into the file in extra, so that it can work more or efficiently when it opens again in the same application. But if you are storing it in CSV format, that CSV format is not going to have any metadata as such. It is going to remove all the enveloping data. It is going to just keep the actual data, and here you can see the rows and columns, the values which are put, they are going to be seen in a simple text file where you will find between two data elements there will be a comma separating it. So for now, let us try to understand that this is actually stored as data.csv. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to take you to the Python shell. Now from Python shell, I have already kept a small module of code. Now I have written import pandas as pd, import numpy as np. If you are not aware of what is panda and what is numpy, you will have to catch up with that terms first, and then you will have to understand it in details. But for the beginners, I'll just tell, for now you just try to understand that pandas, numpy, these are two modules which add up with Python system and help us to run the inbuilt methods, inbuilt properties which are kept or which are written by the makers of Python modules and are put into it. We can readily use them in our codes. Now here pandas and numpy, these things needs to be installed through pip, and if you find any difficulty installing pandas and numpy, please comment it in the video there. You will get help from my side. I'll tell you what to do exactly for adding up those PIP modules. Now what I've done, I've taken a DataFrame df. Now what is df? Shortly we will be able to know. Now what we have done is we have written pd.readcsv. This is a module which is already there in pandas, which will allow us to help take the CSV file directly from the storage and then can load it in the memory as df. Now if I write print df, what I'll be getting, I'll show you. I'm running it now. You can see that whole CSV file which I have shown you was actually starting from the serial number, and this 0, 1 up to 6 has come added with DataFrame. Now try to understand this DataFrame. These are the columns. How many columns do we have? We have 1, that is serial number, account head, account category, balance and flow. We have altogether 5 columns. And how many rows do we have? We have 7 rows. Now these rows are actually counted as indices or index numbers. Now with every index number, like index 0 has got 1 record, this is 1 record, and this record comprises of what? It comprises of values. Now what kind of values? The values which are there in a 2D structure for every column for each index row. Now what we have done here, we have just put a replica of what we have seen in the CSV file. Now what extra we have done in this? Nothing. As I'll take you back to that code. Now I will make something which is going to help me to pivot this table. This concept of pivoting has to be understood very well. Now so far what we have learned is, we have learned how to import Panda, how to import Numpy. Numpy I will show you later why it is being used here, and in the initial code part which I will be showing you in the example will not require that as such, but Pandas will be highly required. So even if I come into this part Comment this part means I have excluded it from my current code. I don't want to delete it because I wanted to remain here. Now what I'll be doing here is I'll write pd dot pivot. Now what is the literal meaning of the word pivot? The literal meaning of this word pivot is to make a foundation for any structure, like the base. On the basis of what we are going to analyze this table, that we are going to see now. Now I want to pivot this table, the DataFrame DF. Now what exactly I want to do? As you remember, I'm taking you back to that output screen. As you remember, we had the index numbers as 0 to 6. The columns were serial number, account head, account category, and these things, and the values were all different values. Now, if I want this table to be viewed in terms of, say, categories, like I want that in fixed category, fixed assets, what do we have? In capital, what do we have? In liabilities, what do we have? That I want 1, 2, 3. Now I want these 3 rows to be there, which is going to include these different account heads as the columns. Then what shall I do? Things are going to be more clear if I show it here back again. So I'll write I wanted the index to be account category, columns to be account head, and values to be. Now certain things again we need to know. Now in this data frame, all these elements which are there in the intersection of row and a column were called the values. But what I want to do now is I don't want to include this flow in my table. I just want to include the balance. I want to know about the balance only. So what I will do here is I'll write balance. Now what I will now do is I'll show you what is stored in X. I'll save it and I'll run it. Now what you can see, I've reviewed that the same data frame, but this data frame has got a reframed structure now. What is the reframed structure? What I said I'll be using the account category to be the index. So what has happened? This account category, that is capital, fixed asset and liability, that has come automatically from here. Now under this capital, what all things were there in the data frame? Under this capital we had reserve capital and we had admission of A. So you can see admission of A, and here reserved capital, we are getting a value. But do we have anything corresponding to building and which is a capital? No, we don't have anything of that nature. So it is showing you null. NaN is not a number. Whenever Python system finds no value to be displayed, be it numeric type or be it of any type, it shows null or it shows NaN. So NaN has to be understood as the data is not present. In a similar structure we had 3 fixed assets here: the furniture, the building and the computer. So you can see in the intersection of the fixed asset, computer, building and here the machinery has got the values corresponding there. Similarly, liabilities, we had only one liability, which was interest on loan. So interest on loan, the amount has come for that. So I think the reason behind pivoting a table is somewhere clear to you. It is to reframe the data structure, the data frame that we have. Data frame is nothing but a simple table which is available in the real world and which you have collected from the surroundings. Now, sometimes the data frame which we get from the sources cannot be used the same way. So that has to be reframed. So for reframing it, we need to change the basis in which we are viewing the table or viewing the content of the table. So in that case, we need to pivot the table. So this part of discussion is very clear. I'll be showing you another example where we are not going to be taking the data from any CSV file. We will be simply collecting the data from a ordered dictionary. So what is there, we are going to head to that in the next example. But again, I want to make you I want you to recollect that in a data frame, whenever we are pivoting, three major things are used. The first thing is the index, which is talking about the row numbers. In order of this index, the rows are going to be written. And next is the column. So column are the vertical blocks of the table. And values, which element, which column of your data frame should appear in the pivoted, reframed data frame, which is basically the base of your analysis, that is mentioned or that is referred to through values. So I think it is very clear now. I'll give you more sample examples also, which you will be able to relate, and then you will be able to understand the concept of index, columns and values. See, for understanding the data frames and pivoting it, we need to just understand these three basic things: what to index, what to use as columns, and what to use as values. So we are going to move to the next example. So let us see this new script, which is actually the same CSV file which has been taken in form of one ordered dictionary. Now in order to do that, what I have done, I'll show you here. If you notice, I have taken one extra line here: import collections. This collections, this module has to be added here for doing this specific work. Otherwise we can do it through CSV files also directly. Now what I have done in that, if you remember, we had 5 columns. So in this ordered dictionary, which is actually a method of the collection module, so I have taken this module collection as CS. Now cs.ordered dictionary is going to allow me to create one data frame or table type basic block, which is going to hold the value in it. So how many columns it is going to have? It is going to have 5 basic columns, and each column is going to have list of elements in it. Now how many elements will be there in each? There will be 7 elements. Now if you see, the serial number was 1 to 7, account head was furniture, reserve capital, building, computer, all these things in that way, which we have seen in the CSV file. I have written in the same fashion to represent it into one equivalent form. Now what I did here, I have taken this ordered dictionary and I have put it into a object called table. I could have taken any name here. So as it is going to frame a table in my senses, so this table is going to be created here. Now what I'll do is I'll convert this table to a data frame. Now in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll use the module Pandas, which has a function called data frame, which is going to convert this table into the data frame, and I'll be storing that data frame which I'll be obtaining from the table into df. Now what I have done in this, I have just written data of data frame df, and then this data frame, in the previous example also we have seen what we have converted it to a pivot. Now what we did there, we took the same way, we took the index as account category, we took the columns as account head, and then we have taken the values as balance. So in totality, what you are going to see is a similar type of structure. Now I would like to show you one more interesting thing in this. If you notice this line can also be written as, if you remember previous program and the previous example, I have written exactly this thing. I'm now commenting it. What I'm doing is, in place of using this pivot function for the reference of pandas, instead I'm taking it for df, which is a data frame. Now what I will do is I'll remove DataFrame from here, and I'll see whether this works or not. I have saved it now. I'll not run it now. I'll discuss one more thing in this. Now what we can understand, if I consider these two statements as similar statements, then we are going to have a pivot. Now pivot is going to be having the category as the base of the rows. Based on different account categories, the rows are going to be framed, and how many columns I'll get, as many account heads I have, and what all values are going to be put into it. The balance which is there in that main table, which has been taken as the data frames column, that is going to be filling in my value, and where the values are not going to be present, there it is going to show me not a number, that is NaN. Now further to it, what I actually want to show you, in the previous example also I could have done the same thing, but here I'm showing you. Say for example, if I want to lift just a single element of that pivot, how will I lift it? Now for that, what I said, we need to remember three things. Three vital things are there. One is the index, another is the column, and the third one is the value. So what we need to do is, the pivot is named as P in this case. Now P dot index is equals to fixed asset. Now if you see, for the index fixed asset, where the column is building, the value whatever is there will be printed along with this statement, balance in rupees of building. That means it is going to show me the value from the column building from the row fixed asset. So let us run it and see whether this really does that or not. I'm saving it, I'm running it. Now what you can see here, the same data frame has come like what we have seen in the previous example. Now what we can see, the pivot also is exactly the same, and where I lifted the value, if you have noticed, it has exactly given me the same value what actually I wanted. I wanted the value from the column building which is there in the row fixed asset. Now I will show you something which is going to give us another dimension of thought. Now if I require to know from the row capital if I want to know what is there in the column reserve capital, what will happen? This is going to show one problem. What problem it is going to show? Let us see first, because if we see things, we register it better. Now it is invalid syntax. Why invalid syntax? Because one column name should be here. The moment I put a space in between, the Python shell fails to understand what exactly I'm trying to do. So what is going to be the substitute? Can I put it within double quotes or single quotes and imagine or feel that it will work? Let us see. No. So I'm not being able to see it. So one mandatory thing what you actually should see when you are taking the table or a CSV file, the columns which you are going to actually make should not have any space, and ideally should not have any special character other than underscore. Now when I have put this underscore here, I can work very fine with this, and I can consider this change in my program, and what I'll see it has exactly shown me what I wanted to see. From the capital row, and the column reserved capital, it has shown me the value, that is 45300, and rest everything is the same. So we have understood like what are the ways of dealing with a CSV file, or in a substitute, how to bring CSV files data directly to the code and then put it into one ordered dictionary which is going to be treated as a table. If this is clear, let us see one more angle to it. Now we were taking this whole big table into a data frame, then we were converting it to a pivot, and we were having one single set of values. Now if you remember, or if you see here, there is one more set of value which is flow, and here we are not considering it at all. Now if in case I want the balance as well as the flow both to be seen in the similar pattern, what shall I do? So in that case, pivoting with multiple values we need to learn, and how to do it. The easiest way is to just remove this part, but I will not do it with this particular data set, because the data set here is not going to fit in my screen size. Now if I need to see it in a better platform, the better platform for this is not to use the inbuilt shell of the Python the environment. Better is to move to something better, which is like Jupyter Notebook or something like that. So I'll take you to the next example where we are going to see how to work with multiple set of values in a pivot. So we are here in a new script. Now why I have not taken that previous script? Because that had a data set which has got larger values like values of good length, and if I require to remove anything, or like if I want to make it for multiple values, in that case the screen size is not going to be sufficient enough. So here I have taken a smaller data set. Here you can see only 4 columns are there, and in each column there are only 4 values. So it is just a small data set where the representation, on-screen representation, is going to be easy to understand. So what I'll do is I'll run the module and let you see what happens. Now here you can see in a similar fashion the data frame was holding 4 rows and 4 columns. The first TV is of LG company, price in rupees it is 12,000, US dollar it is 700, or similar kind of value I have put for all different rows. So there are all total 4 rows, 4 columns. And here if you go back to the code, what you can see is with what I've taken the index to be the item. So based on the item the indexing is going to be done, plus the columns will be the company. Now how many companies do we have? We have actually 3 companies here. One is getting repeated. So we are going to get how many columns? We are going to get 3 columns. Let us see what happens. And values, here we have rupees. So rupees are the rupees element is going to be coming in the values section. So let's see whether really it has come or not that way. So what we can see here, it has shown AC and TV. Now there are ACs of 2 different companies, one is LG and another is IFB, and TV of 2 different companies, one is LG and another is Micromax. So this is how the pivoting is being done. Now we have taken only the rupees part. Now if I would have taken USD here, definitely it would have shown me the amount in US dollar. Now what to do if I want to bring it to both the values? The simplest way I said is just to remove it, then run it. Now what we can see here, there is a section called rupees which is going to have 3 columns. Another section is there which is having US dollar. So with this this example can be clearly understood. So we can make pivots which can have multiple value sets. Now I'll show you one more very interesting thing. I'm getting back the values here. For rupees I want. Now I'm running it just to ensure whether my code is running or not. Now here in the data set, what you can see is TV, LG, TV, Micromax, AC, LG, AC, IFB. Now let me make something duplicate here and then try what happens. Duplicate here, I mean to say that if I enter TV once more for the type LG, if you can see TV of LG is already there. I have put TV of LG once more. Now let us run it. It has shown me a lot of errors, isn't it? And at the end, if you see, you will find the value error is actually getting highlighted. It is showing us index contains duplicate entries, cannot reshape. So now the problem is, in the real world this type of data can be there, and now in order to solve this problem, what shall we do? Here we need to learn something more than pivot. If you remember, in the very beginning I was talking about that we are going to highlight on 2 basic functions. One is pivot, another is pivot table. Here comes the role of pivot table. Now what happens in a pivot table, I'll show you in the next example. Now a pivot table is something where we can have operations like sorting of data. We can have operations like aggregating operations such as summing the data elements, or finding the mean, or finding the median, mode, standard deviation, statistical calculations. These things can be done on a pivot table. So what I have done here, if you notice, in place of pivot I have just replaced it with pivot table function. Now if I run it, there is going to be a problem. The problem is, in case any duplicate entry is there, it considers that in the same block and then tries to perform some operation. Now for operating, it requires what kind of data? It requires numeric data. Now in this, be it the column rupees or be it the column US dollar, I have taken it in form of a text based data. I have taken it as a string because I have put it within quotes. Now if I want to just make it a numeric data type, then I just need to remove the single quotes. I'll be able to run it in that case. So what I have done is, I'm going to run this with the values of rupees this way, and let's see whether it runs or not. So it ran very much, and what it has done, if you notice, it has taken the LG TV's first price was 12,000 rupees and the second price was 15,000 rupees. So 12,000 plus 15,000, 27,000 divided by 2 is 13,500, which has been taken here. So by default, if you are using a pivot table, the aggregate function that it uses is the mean. Mean means the average of the values. Although if I wish, I can change it. So for changing it, what shall I do? I should put aggregate function equals to, here comes the role of the Numpy, because here I have to use some properties and methods of numeric Python, and let us see what it does. Now, as I have taken max there, if you have noticed, it has shown me the maximum value. In a similar fashion, if I take, in place of max, if I take min, it will show me the minimum. Now, in a similar way, if I make it USD, what is going to happen? That will cause one data element set like this. Now I'll show you. If I want to find the sum, what it has done. Now if you take 700 and 800 for summing, sum is going to be, the result is going to be 1500, but it has shown 700800 because it has taken it in form of what? A non-numeric string type of value, and it has, rather adding it, it has concatenated. If I would have taken some other operation, because if you remember, when I don't write any aggregate function, what it does is it finds the average. Now can you find average for a non-numeric value? So the last error which is being shown here is no numeric type to aggregate. So again, what will be the solution? The solution is to take these data elements as numeric values. Now if I apply the same code on it, there will be no issues, no problem, and here 700 and 800 is going to show the average of 750 here. So with this section ends. In the continuing video, we are going to see more operations like sorting and use of aggregate functions of numeric Python. So till then, keep enjoying the codes, keep practicing the codes, and try finding out sample questions. If in case you require any assistance, please let me know through comments or through direct WhatsApp posts. I'll be very happy or glad to help you.